Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. Are you a self-employed professional? Do you offer a service or product that relies on sales opportunities? Has the task of hunting, chasing, and following up with ideal prospects consumed your life to the point where you aren't selling as much as you should or want to? What if you could delegate all of that dirty work of chasing prospects to someone else so you could spend 100% of your time selling and closing the folks who are lined up for you on a silver platter? I'm talking about staying in the red zone and driving in sales one after the other. Well, that's what we're going to discuss today with my next guest, James King Baskin. James is the founder of Outsource Kings, which allows business owners to regain their time and lives again. James, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. James, tell us about Outsource Kings and the type of folks that you help.
Awesome, man. First, Mark, thanks again for having me. I really appreciate this. And I am James King Baskin of Outsource Kings, and I help agency owners follow up with their leads and their clients' leads without wasting time and energy by outsourcing the appointment setting.
Right on. So these folks, these agency owners, why should they outsource? What is their key challenge that outsourcing can solve for them?
Yeah, so it always goes back to time, energy, and money. And those three things together are literally the definition of outsourcing.
What other solutions do those folks try? What are they doing right now to try to get their time back?
Yeah, so just to kind of elaborate a little more on the time, energy, and money, and going into that also, a lot of people will try to bring on staff early on for a business, which is a large expense. If you have an in-house person, let's say an assistant that actually comes into work. If you're in the U.S. based, they're not going to want to work for anything less than $10 to $15 an hour. They're going to want benefits. They're going to want this, that, blah, blah, blah. And so people will try that. And with outsourcing, it is a fraction of the cost, probably 25% of the cost at best of what that actual physical person will be. Someone that is actually very, very grateful for the job. Not saying that other people aren't, just my own experience. And they're going to want to show up to work every single day to do the stuff that you probably don't want to do anyways. So a lot of people will, they'll start by trying to bring someone in-house to work from them, or maybe like a work-at-home person that works U.S.-based, and the list goes on and on and on. And with outsourcing, you essentially can have someone else that's somewhere else in the world, very appreciative of their job, willing to work for anywhere from $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 an hour, and on autopilot, you can have them start working 40, 50, 60 hours a week.
Paint us a little bit of a picture. Let me take a step back a minute and tell me, these agency folks, what sort of tasks are they doing that are so time-consuming on a daily basis? What's really consuming them?
Yep. So I always start with the analogy of when I was in college and I was in this computer class teaching everything about Microsoft products, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and this teacher telling me that if I didn't learn this, I would not be able to get a job. And I hated this class. I really didn't like it. I still got an A. Anything I try to do my best at. And so here I am, fast forward maybe 5, 6 years later after college, and I outsource anything dealing with Microsoft Excel, anything dealing with Google Sheets to start. That's a minimal basic task. I outsource building my SOPs, my standard operating procedures, and the majority of what we do for all of our clients, I outsource 100%, making any type of phone call, which a lot of marketers are afraid to do. A lot of marketers are afraid to make phone calls. They're afraid to pick up the phone. And I'm not even talking cold calling. They could have a prospect say, I'm ready to sign up, give me a call. And the marketer will be like, oh, well, can we just do it on here? And it's like they don't even have a phone. And with outsourcing, we teach agency owners, as well as I run my own agency, how to use someone in, say, Philippines, Colombia, where I currently reside, how to have someone else make the phone calls for you so you can stay focused on your task and what you're good at.
So yeah, dive into that a little bit. What specifically are the solutions that you offer these agency folks? How are you helping them solve these problems?
Yeah. So right now we currently have my Done For You services, which is where you hire me for a monthly fee. And depending on how many leads you need called, we have a couple different packages. And we call our clients' leads in real time. On average, we call each lead in under 2 to 3 minutes. On top of that, we also offer the ability to send live calls. I can't tell you how many times we have someone that says on the phone to my team, I'm ready to sign up. Can I talk to someone right now? And rather than just book an appointment in someone's calendar, we send that to the marketer. We tell them, hey, the person's ready to go. We connect the call, and then boom, we go off onto the next call. As well as I work with currently it is a beta program, and I work with people's virtual assistants right now. And they are their own in-house virtual assistant that an agency has. And that virtual assistant works with my team. And so majority of the time it's someone in the Philippines. And so that person in the Philippines works with my team in the Philippines. And then I work with the agency owner one-on-one. And we essentially integrate everything I'm doing for that agency owner. So then at the end of our 1 month hands-on beta program, that agency owner goes off on their own, and now I've essentially duplicated and replicated what I do inside of their business. Their virtual assistant, the Filipino, has had calls with my Filipino team and been coached on how to do things. And I realized that a lot of Filipinos work better with other Filipinos when they receive coaching. And so that's why I established this. And then American business owners, they always struggle to understand their virtual assistant. So what's usually ends up happening with miscommunication and high turnover. And so I work with the American business owner on establishing that relationship, having a good relationship, and communicating with open path and open conversation.
Now that just makes a lot of sense. So it sounds to me, if I understand you correctly, that you're offering two paths. Either someone can hire you to do all of it for them, so like a done-for-you service. And on the other side, you can help set up an agency owner or professional with their own team in which you support them by helping train their virtual assistant. Is that right? Yep, that's right. So we work with the people for the done-for-you. Self-explanatory. We do all the work for you. You hire us for a monthly fee. Or you hire me one time and you already have a virtual assistant, and then we work with that virtual assistant and train them to be exactly like us. And eventually there will be 3 paths, and that third path will essentially be the course as well. So James, how close to you mentioned earlier that some of these marketers or agencies, they're almost afraid of the phone these days. Like, how close to the end zone can you take them? Are you actually making the sale for them, or do they have to take the ball across the line?
They have to take the ball across the line, and this is something that, we've adopted weekly calls with our clients because of this, that we want their feedback. I'll give you an example. We have a ton of loan officer clients. I mean, I'm probably bringing on at least 2 to 3 loan officers a week as clients. And I'll give a really good example of how close we can bring. We had a lady, and she's one of our clients. We had a lead come in. We called the lead. The lead said, I'm ready to go right now. We then called the lady on the phone. That's our client. We informed her that we have someone on the phone that's interested in taking a loan application. We connected the phone call. We make a very, very kind and courteous introduction. Hi, lead name Jane. This is Mary. Mary is a loan officer in the Houston, Texas area. She works at XYZ Mortgage, and she's going to be helping you with your application. Hey, Mary, I want to introduce you to Jane. Jane is in blah, blah, blah. All right. Oh, hey, Mary, how are you? Hey, Jane. Okay, so now they're communicating with each other. All right. And now, okay, everyone, take care. Talk to you later. And then we just exit the conversation, and now we've connected someone that's interested in buying and taking an application for a loan with the actual loan officer. We just kind of like walk out of the room quietly, close the door, go back to making phone calls, and that lady told us that she took an application on the phone.
So that's how you're keeping that loan officer in the red zone, or that agency owner, so they can just focus on talking to people that are already predisposed to do business with them and bring them in rather than spending their whole day, just calling and following up on people. That's what you do for them. So what's preventing folks from doing outsourcing? Do they even know this is possible? How popular is this, or is this new?
I mean, it's been popular, I feel like, since the 90s. I mean, one of the first books I ever read on it, The 4-Hour Work Week, and I still refer to Tim Ferriss. I think he wrote it in 2004. I could be off on the date of that. And a lot of people were using India in the beginning. Microsoft, for example, has call centers in the Philippines that handle tech support. So it's extremely popular, but to the general public, when they see this is like an eye-opening experience. They're just like, wait, so you have someone else in another part of the country that's working for the equivalent of like $30,000 to $40,000 a year, the equivalent in the Philippines, and they are willing to do the work. They show up, they don't complain, they're grateful for the job, and I'm like, yeah. And some people are just mind blown when they hear this. And then other people are like, oh, I've known about this for a while. I used to do this. So we get all kinds of variances. But in terms of popularity, I think it's just more giving them the keys to the car. And so you might know about the car ahead of time. You might be like, oh, yeah, the Corvette's an amazing car, but you never took a ride in it. And then all of a sudden we connect the two. And then all of a sudden the road, so to speak, is the journey of having someone outsource tasks for you. And it's like, wow, I really get to enjoy this car, which is your business.
Clarify something for us in the possibilities. You mentioned that you'd be hiring somebody that's the equivalent of like $30,000, $40,000 salary here, but saving a ton of money. Mm-hmm. So what kind of money is that? Like what are they paid? Like what do you see out there? What's average, and what can you kind of get for that kind of money? And I know, we equate things to either a monthly salary here or an hourly. Paint us a picture.
So the best way to explain it is $3 an hour full time. And this is probably going back a couple years now, so it might change a little bit based on, the dollar value and the Filipino peso. $3 an hour full time is equivalent to $32,000 a year, I believe. And anyone on my team makes anywhere from $2 to $4 plus an hour. And that's just this happy ballpark range. I try not to be the cheapest person. I know what that's like, and then I also know what it's like to overpay. So $3 an hour full time is the equivalent of $32,000 a year.
So as far as in their country, overseas, is that a respectable wage there? How does it sort of rank in the scale of income for them? And is this a noble thing for us to do, and it's not taking advantage of people at all?
So I think about this a lot, and I always wonder, and obviously I don't live there. My plan is to visit there in June, their Independence Day. And I always think about, like, am I underpaying? Am I not paying enough? Am I paying too much? And I just try to do more than most. And it's gonna be kind of a little long answer to the question. And the reason being is, first, I see some people that are like, oh, I'm paying my person $2 an hour, and it's almost like bragging. And I almost find that as like a disrespect thing. It sounds kind of odd, but it almost sounds like a bragging American. Oh, I'm paying someone in another world $2 an hour to do all these tasks for me, and it just doesn't sit right with me. And so, I think I've went through stages as a human being, and I used to be like, oh, I only pay someone $1 an hour. This is so amazing. So I had to go through that phase myself, and so now I try to take an approach of I help out in the Philippines with my team. And besides salary, I help them with their children. I offer medical assistance. I offer tech support as far as some of their devices. I have bought, as of now, I think 3 or 4 computers in other countries for other people so that they could still continue to work because their computer broke. I buy headsets for my team. And all this stuff, I've been told, by the people, by my team. You don't have to do this, but I just felt compelled to do, because guess what? If they don't have a computer, they don't have a headset, they can't work anywhere. But yet this person is very loyal and they're a good employee. And so I feel obligated to pay for that. I bought last year in 2019, I think I bought 10 school uniforms, maybe 9, I think. 9 or 10 school uniforms for the girls' kids that work for me. And school uniforms were probably, a large expense for them as kids go back to school. A lot of the kids are Catholic, so they had to have school uniforms. And I try to do little family day stuff where I'll send a husband and wife on Friday, payday. I'll be like, hey, I put a little extra in your pay and enjoy a massage in your country on me for you and your husband, couples massage essentially. Or I'll, pay for them to go out on a family dinner. And so I'll do stuff like that just because I feel like, hey, they're doing an amazing job. They work for a fraction of the cost of what someone else does. And this is my way of showing appreciation. And, the girls that work for me, they follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll see them and I'm like, man, they're living better than I am. They're out there, whole family, tons of people, all eating food. They're taking a private taxi, and I'm just like, man, that's awesome. They're having a great time. And so it makes me feel good about, what I'm paying them, what they're doing for me in my team aspect.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's really about, what opportunities do they have otherwise? Because in this global economy, this is giving folks there in the Philippines and other countries like huge opportunities that most don't have, because in their countries, there just aren't that many opportunities. The majority of the country lives in poverty. So this is an absolute, gift for them. This is a blessing. And also at the end of the day, if you really just researched what other types of jobs people could get at that kind of pay scale, I've heard that there are professors that make that kind of money. So like a noble, profession such as a professor or an airline pilot in those countries are paid very similarly. Is that right?
So I don't know about airline pilots, but I have had people with doctorate degrees work for me, and they went to school. And I've had people work for me that went back to school, and I'll probably have people that work for me that go back to school that come back to work for me. And every single time I'm supportive of their decision. There was at least one girl I know of and another girl that was going to start with me that both decided that they wanted to go back to school and further their education rather than take a call center job, we'll call it, working for me, appointment setting. And I respect that, you know what I mean? And as far as the wage costs, I wanted to be talking something about the poverty, and that kind of is my mission. Here I'm in Colombia as we speak. I'm pretty much duplicating and replicating what I built in the Philippines down here in Colombia, and then I will be visiting the Philippines as well. And I want to put a plug in for obviously my business. Everyone's heard of Outsource Kings, but if you ever want to make a contribution on behalf of your business, feel free to message me and we can, connect that. We've had a children's Halloween party here in Colombia. I rented a mini horse and 100 kids showed up, and I provided candy and toys for all 100. In the Philippines in 2018, I think we fed 50 kids, which I know is kind of like, just trying to get them like ground bearings. And I think in 2019, we fed over 100 children. And as well as each one of those kids, we provided them with educational books. These are all street kids that are homeless, and I'll kind of elaborate on this a little bit. They're homeless. They are selling cigarettes in the street. They're selling random knickknacks and food door to door, and they're basically hustling to stay alive. And a lot of them are not resorting to crime, but unfortunately, a lot of them are actually abducted, and they're sold into indentured slavery. And this still happens. It's disgusting to even think about it. Still happened in 2020. Girls as young as 4 or 5 years old being sold as maids to other people in other countries and forced to work as a maid, or even worse, unfortunately, sex trafficking. And so, we provide these kids on the street with educational books, soap, toothbrushes and toothpaste, We try to feed them. There was a local bunch of kids in not Mindanao. I'm going to butcher it. There was a landslide, and all these kids were displaced, and they lost their parents, and it was just kids surviving. I'm guessing like the oldest kid is probably the leader of the pack kind of thing. And my project manager, she would go there and was not the safest area, and she would feed the kids. It would be on behalf of Outsource Kings. And, if you check out my website, you check out my YouTube, you'll see, 50, 100 kids all screaming, "Thanks, James." And, there's all kinds of chickens running around in the background, and cows and random animals. And, we're just giving them toothbrushes and toothpaste for food. And it's like, I'm not even making a scratch or a dent. And I take it very seriously what's happening over there. I'm part of the Filipino Society in the United States. I guess it's one of those like charitable organizations, and I'm part of their BNI here in the United States. I attended their Filipino festival in Florida, and I signed up with those guys, and they've been great. They do a lot for the community. And as we speak right now, just to put a plug in, I'm actually getting ready to send my first box to the Philippines in a cargo container. And so we're sending baby supplies for one of the girls that works for me.
That's fantastic. Being originally from the Philippines myself, I can tell you these are also not ordinary folks that you're hiring, because they value education so much there, perhaps more than even here. And the majority of these folks have advanced degrees, and as you mentioned, master's degrees. So they're highly skilled workers that are available for you, and very little opportunity there. That's why I think it's such a great match in this global economy. Yeah,
and something I want to touch on that, that a lot of people always wonder why other countries cannot, so to speak, get ahead. And I'll just be realistic. It's like, the Philippines, they've got, problems just like we probably have here in the United States, but they have, a lot of poverty. Everyone always thinks Africa first. And I'm like, you need to see how bad Philippines is. Like, it's so easy to like have that, mom would say growing up, "Oh, there's kids in China starving." It's like, yeah, but there is a humongous population in the Philippines that are literally like starving to death constantly. They say 1 in 17 kids in the United States is, I think, homeless and suffering from not being able to get food in America. And that's a statistic I read at some point in like 2017. And I'm willing to bet it's extremely high in the Philippines. I don't want to say a number. That being said, the large majority of the reason why other countries cannot get ahead is because of reliable internet. And it's crazy to even think about it. And that's how strong the online world is. And it's unfortunate that it happens like that. But, the girls that all work for me, they all got, internet, backup internet, stuff like that. And unfortunately, a lot of places in the Philippines don't have that.
James, we talked a little bit about some myths people have about, outsourcing. Are there any other myths out there that people hear about outsourcing that maybe prevents them from trying it?
I think the biggest thing is past failures that people will let dominate their thinking. My person's not actually working for me. These are things that have happened to me. So I guess it wouldn't be so much a myth versus like it happened before. The person lies to me. They lied about their hours. They worked other jobs while they were working for me. And so these were things that not only were a myth, but they were real. But at the same point, it's like anything. And even in the United States, it's like, how hard is it to find good health? It's very hard, in my personal opinion. And, someone in another country, you don't know what's going on. And so we've put in systems in place that, we have software that monitors their time. So we know that they're actually doing their job. We have calls with my team. My team's monitored by a project manager to make sure they're doing their job. So I think a lot of it goes back to the expectations that you set with someone when they work for you. So the first myth would be the person's working multiple jobs. The second myth is going to be the accent. People in the Philippines, they sound. This is something that I hate even saying this, but people are like, "Oh, they sound super Asian. You can't understand them." And this happens rarely that someone says this, but when I hear it, it's more of like an ignorance statement because they don't even know what someone in the Philippines sounds like, but automatically they're expecting it to sound like someone that's Chinese is what they've told me. And I play the recordings, and 99 times out of 100, someone's like, "Oh wow, that sounds exactly like an American." And even then, if we hear someone that says, "Oh, it still sounds blah blah blah," I just tell them, "Hey, look, you're probably not the best fit for us." Because when we call leads, and I've listened to the calls, very, 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 very rare, maybe one call out of a couple hundred, do we ever even hear anything about, not being able to understand someone.
Sometimes I think it's even because they enunciate clearer than we're used to that people think there's something wrong.
They've got a little British twang to them. I'm going to probably butcher the Filipinos' history, but they've been owned by so many countries before they became their own independence. Obviously, their independence is in sometime in June. I think it's June 12th, my birthday. And they were owned by China. They've been owned by the United States. They've been owned by Africa. They've been owned by Spain. They've been owned by probably, I think, Arabic countries. And so they've got different dialects that are both Britishy kind of English. Cebuian in Cebu is actually very close to Spanish in different ways. Like they'll actually say hola as hello and different words like that. And Cebuian being a dialect that's in the Philippines and Cebu primarily region. And so they've just been owned by so many countries, but the majority have a like British twang in a way. And, but to me, it's perfect English.
James, tell us, what inspired you to help folks with outsourcing? Can you give us a little bit of your background?
Yeah, great question. I appreciate that. I love talking about this because I had an insurance agency, and for about 5 years, I had this. I'm like the marketer, but being completely honest, I am like the marketer, afraid to make phone calls, and I don't know what it is. It even when I still do it today, there still is a little bit of an underlying fear, and now I kind of get off on that in like a perverse type of way. I'm just like, this is going to be so good that I have this fear. It's not normal, but when I was in my insurance agency, I would just be like sweating, heart palpitating. I had to call these leads coming in, and I was like, oh my God, I hate this so much. And when I would call my leads, I knew that not only was it something I hated doing, it was going to take a lot of time. I was going to get told no. And it was just like, man, this is not fair or fun, but I have to do this in order to schedule appointments for my calendar. And so I'd have these direct mail leads come in, and I had to schedule appointments for my calendar, and I had to call these leads, and I was getting 20 to 30 leads a week. And I knew that I had to call them more than once. I knew that I had to call people back. People were going to tell me no. People were going to say, call back tomorrow. And I had to put call back CB 5 p.m. And I put the date next to it that I had to call them back. So I was unorganized, tons of leads, and I was spending $28 per lead. So then if someone told me no on the phone, I was emotionally invested. I'm like, there goes $30 practically that I spent to get that. And the guy was just like an asshole. And so I'd get like, aggressive back. And I was like, this is just not good. And so I started searching for US based companies. And I found a couple companies that were like, yeah, we'll call your leads for you. And so I started hiring a couple of them. And one of the best examples ever was this company I hired. And they did not call on the weekends. They had a short shift on Friday, 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I think was their hours. They didn't tell me this. And I hit a gold mine, the oil vein, we'll call it, with Facebook leads. This was 3 years ago when Facebook leads were like totally different than what they are now. They were like gold mine. And I had this company. They were supposed to call my leads. I had 50 leads coming in one day, and they weren't called for 3 days. 50 leads came in on a Friday. They didn't call them until Monday. And we were lucky if we got a couple of appointments out of that. And I was like, dude, what? And I was upset because I'm paying this company, and they were just like, oh, these are our hours. So they weren't clear with me about the hours. They weren't, working 7 days a week like we do. And so I took note of that. I said, okay, well, if this happened to me, it's probably happened to other people. So then I hired another company. The other company was actually, I got to give them credit. They actually were pretty decent at what they did, but they had things with their billing that I didn't like. I didn't like how I knew how many calls were being made. I didn't like I never knew what was going on with my leads. And then at the end of the month, they'd be like, oh, we made a bunch of extra calls, and we're going to have to prorate you and bill you another $500, $600. And I was like, what? And so these were things that I was like, so I don't want to surprise my clients with random bills. I want my clients to know what's going on. So I want to be transparent. I also want to be able to communicate with my clients. And so kind of first step was, okay, I'm going to start outsourcing for my insurance agency. So I hired people in the Philippines to make cold calls for myself while I drove around and ran appointments, because obviously I can't call leads while I'm driving around. And so part of the script would be, when we would set an appointment, we'd cold call seniors for their Medicare supplement. And part of the script would say, what kind of car do you have in the driveway? Obviously, there was a whole bunch of other questions about how old they were and where they lived and all that stuff aside, but we established this question. I'd always talk about this exact question because it paints a big picture and would allow me to go through my day very smoothly. And the reason why we asked them what kind of car they had in their driveway was because when I would drive to the appointment, if I didn't see that car in the driveway, I kept driving because that meant they weren't home. And but it's crazy, right? So by nature of doing that, my team would then, they would call to confirm the day of, and so, I would drive and I would run Medicare appointments with seniors. My team would cold call 40 hours a week, scheduling me constantly. It was crazy. I would go to so many appointments. And then we started adding little nuances of outsourcing. I had them write personal thank you cards with sendoutcards.com. Probably the first company I quoted, but, and you can do like a custom card. I had them start calling past clients, asking them for referrals. Hey, I work on behalf of James Baskin's office. We get a lot of our business from word of mouth and personal referrals. If you know anyone and you were, impacted in a positive way from working with Helping Others Insurance Agency was the name of my company. We'd love it if you have someone that we can talk to or something like that. And we'd send them a postcard 3 days prior. So they were getting hit 2 times, all outsourced, by the way. A postcard was outsourced. It would cost me, I think, like $1.25 plus postage or something like that. So that was taken care of me without me even knowing about it. And then the phone call to book an appointment for a referral, which obviously referrals are pretty much lay down sales, would get booked for me. And then I would start getting referrals on autopilot, and client management was now taken off my plate. And so all I had to do was go to people's houses. And this kind of just brings me back memory lane. So I love talking about this. So I might get a little bit long-winded with it, but it was just like, I don't know when the moment was, but I just remember a clear time period where I was running around, running appointments constantly. And I was like, I can do this from home. And I took a big leap and I was like, I'm not going to drive out to any more houses. I'm going to do this over the phone. And then people started asking me to teach them in the online world. They were like, can you teach me or can you help me? And I was in my buddy Bobby's Facebook group, and his wife Rachel was like, hey, I have a whole bunch of people that need help with outsourcing. She put me in a private Facebook chat on Messenger, and I had all of these people in there heading me up with questions. And I was like, hey, look, I'm going to create a Facebook group, and I'm going to, I started giving free training, and I started doing these videos, these Facebook Lives constantly. And from that, I then had people that were like, hey, can I hire you for consultant? And then I had my first person pay me $1,000 for consultant. And then I had other people that pay me for consultant. And then I started thinking to myself, I can turn this into an actual service. And, I kind of did steps backwards looking back at it. I tried to create a course first with no proven results. No, not too many people were interested in it. I had a couple people were like, oh, what's this all about kind of thing, but they definitely weren't even going to buy. And then I created the agency. So it's kind of like completely backwards to what marketers do. I tried to create a course first and not have an agency. And then I created my agency and told people we called their leads for them. And I'll shut up after this, but I thought I was going to get all these insurance agents because I was an insurance agent. This just goes to show you when you have plans that sometimes you don't know what the market's going to want. And I'm like, all these insurance agents need this. All these insurance agents are going to hire me. It is now 2020. I've been doing this now for over a year and a half, seriously, and I have yet to work with one insurance agent.
Fascinating.
And I still, I do very, very well with my business, and we're growing constantly, and yet to have an insurance agent work with us. And I work with a ton of loan officers, realtors, solar, doctors' offices. We have a couple of gyms right now. And it's just kind of funny when you think like who's going to want your services, and it's like the total opposite. So it's kind of funny.
You're taking me back to the old school where I'm from when you said send out cards. Good old direct mail with stamps. So James,
yep, exactly.
Now what's next for you? I know that you've got a forthcoming book that you're working on, Outsource Kings. You want to tell us what that's going to be about? Why are you writing that book, and who's it for?
Yeah, so the book is for anyone that is old or new, I should say, because you can still teach an old dog new tricks, and you can still teach, obviously, a new dog a lot of new tricks. And so it's for people that don't know even where to begin with how to start outsourcing. It's for people that don't even know where to begin with hiring someone, everything from the job post to the actual hiring, signing the contract with the person you're going to hire in the Philippines. So I'm not going to leave any stone unturned, so to speak, for the beginner, and then obviously advanced tricks for people that are trying to build, grow, and scale a team. And, just want to have a way that people can access my thoughts and some of my secrets, we'll call it, that have helped me grow a team of 5 to 6 people, completely outsourced, and with a project manager where I don't have to monitor employees all day long, and I know the work's getting done.
Hey, James, before I ask you my last question, is there anything that I didn't think to ask you that you'd want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I would say anyone that's listening, if this is something that you're interested in, if you want to do your research on me, please do. Check me out on Google, Outsource Kings, with an S at the end of it. Check me out on Facebook, James King Baskin. It's a picture of me with a king and a crown. Sorry, king and a crown. It's a picture of me with a crown on. And YouTube as well, and Instagram. Those are my social media handles. I always tell people, check me out if you want, if you're curious, if you're skeptical, or any of the above. And yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, my last question for you, James, is what's something that you learned early on that still impacts the way that you do business today?
Ooh, man. Yeah, there's a couple learning lessons that I have with outsourcing, and not even so much outsourcing, but so much that built my service that we do now. And I think the biggest one would be communication at the end of the day. And I'll elaborate on that. We had a deal, $5,000 a month, and I'll keep the company name out of it because they actually are big enough that they own a sports arena. And I have no idea how I walked into this deal. Still to this day, I'm like, I should not have even been having contract talks, negotiation talks with this company. I don't even know how I got it. And they a third party hired us. That's how I got it. The third party basically, was subcontracting, and we got this deal with this company. I'm trying to not mention the niche or the company name. And essentially, they wanted us to make phone calls for them. And this niche, it was very particular with how they do things. And there's a certain flow, a certain process that only people in that niche would understand. And an outsider looking in would be like, oh, that makes sense, but I don't do that kind of work, so I wouldn't know that. And so anyways, we were making phone calls, and I told the client, oh, we'll make the script for you. We'll build the script for you. I was just saying yes to everything. And I just was like afraid to like lose this deal. And I was like, man, I shouldn't so I was like, I'd probably selling the pipe dream, so to speak. And I got fired as fast as I got hired. It's kind of funny. And looking back at it, but at the time I was super upset about it. But anyways, long story short, I had a call with the client one day, and I already knew I was going to get fired because we were getting like subpar results. And I was like, hey, is there any way that you can ask these guys to provide us a script? And he was like, oh, absolutely. And he's like, why didn't you ask us that sooner? And because of that, I'll call it what it is. It was a failure. I completely failed with this campaign, with this client. And because of that, we adopted an SOP that the clients need to provide us a script. And it was like a mind awakening experience. And literally because I lost this $5,000 a month client, we now adopted that if you're going to work with us, you need to provide us a script. And I'll give you a simple example. Like, imagine we're calling real estate leads. This wasn't a realtor client that we lost, so I don't mind saying this, but imagine we're calling real estate leads and we don't know about XYZ when someone's first buying their home about some kind of specific question we need to ask. And I tell someone, hey, we'll build a script for you. And I have no clue how real estate works. And all of a sudden it's like, now we're calling and we don't even know what to really say. And we're not getting good results. And the client, let's just pretend the client's a 20-year veteran realtor. They're going to know to the core what to ask, what to say, and when. And if we were just simply to say, hey, can you possibly write up a script for us? We need you to provide that to us. And they would be like, oh, sure. Yeah. And so along the way, we've adopted more things. Sometimes people are like, oh, I don't have a script, or I don't know what to say. And then I tell people, I think you actually do know what to say. And then people are like, well, what do you mean? Do you call leads currently? Yes. Okay. What I'd like you to do is when you're calling your leads, simply put your phone next to yourself or have a third-party device, record yourself and the client's conversation, or just record yourself and what you say, and you can build your script off of that. Listen to the recording and write down what you're saying, and there's your script. And then we've had, I can't tell you how many clients were like, oh my God, this is mind-blowing. I have a script. I've been saying it for the past couple of years. And it's like, yeah, you just never written it down. And so the biggest learning lesson for me was not to write other people's scripts, not to pretend like I'm the expert in every industry, and let our clients be the experts and us to be the vessel and the resource.
That's sage advice. That is absolutely terrific. James, I'm super excited about your upcoming book. I can't wait to get my hands on that. Can you give out your contact information again for our listeners if there's folks that could really use your help right now? What are you offering them, and you offering them a consultation or something, or how do they get a hold of you? Yeah.
The best way to get a hold of me is through either Facebook or my website. That is the primary source of my traffic of business. James King Baskin on Facebook. Shoot me a Facebook message and I'll get back to you. Or my business page, Outsource Kings, and then one of my team members will get back to you and schedule an appointment. And obviously my physical website, outsourcekings.com, you can go on there. You can listen to recordings. You can see testimonials. You can also schedule a call. My calendar is on the first page, and you can physically book a discovery call. We ask anyone that's first booking a call with us to book a discovery call. If you do book one of these calls, just mention that you heard me on Mark's radio show. Give Mark a shout out, and they'll have a spot for referred by, and would love to talk to anyone.
James, I really appreciate your time, man. Thanks for taking the time and chatting with us and for our listeners today. Really appreciate that. I wish you continued success for you, Outsource Kings, for your upcoming book, and for all of your clients.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark, again for having me.
We've been talking with James King Baskin, founder of Outsource Kings. If you're a professional or a business owner and you want to focus on making sales while Outsource Kings does all of your follow-up, visit OutsourceKings.com. Until next time, I'm Mark Imperial, and make it a remarkable week.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.